Hey guys, Fidget Cup. This is the dang ticks. Fidget. Hey guys, my name is Jaleesa and I'm back for another video. Cup. And clearly I have a guest. I think just to my or to my left to you guys. I don't know which. But Fidget, this is Melissa Seawater from I Drink the Seawater. Fidget Cup. I'm gonna put her channel link in the description. Maybe you'd like to share a bit about what your channel is about. Bricks.
My channel, Garbage, is partly about Tourette syndrome and partly about mental health. A whole bunch of aspects of mental health. So
yeah.
Yes.
Bricks. But today, we just wanted to talk a little bit about Tourette syndrome. This is actually part 2 to a conversation that we recorded earlier, Fidget. So I'm also going to link that in the description, and you can check out part 1 on her channel. Gypsy, but yeah, we're just, I guess, going to continue our conversation, Fidget. And I wanted to sorry, my computer. Bricks.
Fidget, yeah, fuck.
It's flipping out. But anyways.
Jaleesa's tick, obviously, Fidget.
Yeah. Fidget. Maybe that's something we could talk about for a little bit. Echolalia. How Fidget, when you're around someone with Tourette's, you tend to pick up their tics a lot. Jeez.
I think especially when it's like repetitive, because with tics are very repetitive often. Not always, but often. So Fidget. The more it's repeated, the more we tend to pick it up.
Yeah, and I find my tics are very suggestible. Fidget, like if you like say something enough times, or I see you do something, or like you say, oh, don't do such and such, Jaleesa, I'll probably end up doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, Fidget.
Yeah, Garbage.
No. So I also wanted to ask, Fidget, what, in your opinion, do you think it's like having Tourette's as an adult versus like having it as a kid? Because we both got diagnosed in adulthood and although we had tics in our childhood that we didn't know were tics, it really only became apparent and a bigger problem, I guess, in adulthood. Frigid.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe you can expand on that.
So it's hard to like say exactly because it is what is different now than it was then. I think the diagnosis helps. So
Bricks.
Knowing what's going on helps now as opposed to what I knew then, which was nothing. I didn't even know it was the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I didn't have control. I didn't know that it was the thing. So knowing that it's a thing now as an adult helps. But I didn't have that then. I didn't have much understanding of what was going on or how to explain myself.
Bricks, yeah. Do you find Frigid? Did you find as a kid that like you did have tics, but you didn't know that you couldn't control them? Because like when I was a kid, I remember I had this like throat clearing tic that I'd do every second of every day for like months on end. Bricks, and people would say like, "Hey, could you stop making that noise?" And they weren't being mean or anything, and I would just be like, "Sure, Bridget," and I'd like try to, and I'd just after a few minutes I'd be like, like trying to make other sounds to not throat clear, Bridget, but I don't think I knew that I couldn't control it. I don't think I've really fully grasped that. Fidget. Bricks.
I fuck garbage, yeah. I think it's complicated because I knew that I should be able to stop. I tried to stop, couldn't. But it wasn't like, this must be a thing, like I said earlier. So I don't know, like I knew that I couldn't stop. I didn't jump to any conclusions about it though.
Yeah, Fidget, I find I didn't, I didn't really worry, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. I didn't really think about my tics as much as a kid, Fiji, even though looking back, there are some I should have realized that were like a bit unusual. Fidget, but I think after a while, they just became a normal thing for me, and I didn't think about them being unusual or being part of a condition, or I didn't think of them as being out of my control in any way. Frigid. They just sort of happened, and they just got sort of moved on. But whereas now that's kind of a bit harder to do.
Yes.
And I'm a cat. Bricks. Also an important point to this video.
Fucking cow. Yeah,
fuck,
bitch.
Fuck. It's funny, me and my friend with Tourette's, we always say, cut. There will never be any awkward silence between us. It might be awkward, but it'll never be silent. Fidget.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's kind of how my family used to say, we'll never lose you in a store, because they're in another aisle or something, or across the store, they always hear me and find me. So
Canada.
Noise is kind of our practical one occasion.
Hi. I have a few memories of being lost in a store as a kid. Hi. Fidget. I had something to say and then I forgot it. This happens to me so often. Bricks.
Why did the poodle fuck the wall?
Fidget. Maybe going back to like having Tourette's as an adult and like versus a kid. Frigid. I feel like there's like not as many resources for adults. Frigid. Like there's tons of camps and advice for kids, or different videos or advice forums that are made for kids, or parents of kids with Tourette's. Fidget. Like most of the advice and resources and all of that out there is either for kids or a parent of a kid with Tourette's. Frigid. There's not a whole lot dealing with like adult issues. You know what I mean? Bricks.
Yeah. Specialists who deal with adult Tourette syndrome would be more rare.
Oh yeah, those are hard to find.
Isn't studied as much. It's not talked about as much.
Bricks.
It's not specialized as much.
Fidget.
Hard to find someone who's really like
Bricks.
for adult.
Yeah. I'm still kind of told, I guess because I'm still somewhat young, I'm only like 19, but I'm still kind of told that like, oh, you'll just grow out of it. Fidget, which is like, well, it just got worse in adulthood. Like, what does that tell you about how things are progressing? But Fidget, some people don't grow out of it. A lot of people don't grow out of it. A lot of people, it might get better, but they don't grow out of it, and a lot of people don't get better, or some people like us get worse. Frigid. I don't think that's acknowledged as much as it should be. Bricks.
Yeah, I think that what is it? Oh, the stats are something like 1/3 get better, 1/3 stay the
something
same,
like that.
Get worse.
I've heard several different stats, but that's the one I hear most often.
Yeah.
Bricks.
Hi, fuck garbage.
Fidget, or a lot of people that think they've grown out of it have tics and they don't know it, which I would think that's if you have tics but you don't know that you have tics and it doesn't affect you in any way, then Frigid, that's a pretty good deal. But
it would be.
At the same time, I'm like, Frigid, we don't just stop ticking at 18, Bricks.
Kind of reach an imaginary line and just stop.
Yeah, Fidget. Canada, and I'm a cat. Fidget. Yeah, actually, I think my neurologist is Fidget. My mom's in the room, but my neurologist actually did tell me that Fidget, once you're in adulthood and like things are getting worse, they expect it to keep lasting throughout your life. Frigid. Look, but it most other people with Tourette's that I meet tell me that I'll still like grow out of it, I guess. fidget, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
Well, time will tell,
jeez,
I suppose.
I
Yeah.
guess so. Look, that'd be nice, bricks. I guess I'm not like fidget. Like I'm hoping it'll get better, but I'm not relying on that fact. Cut.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it as it is. Cut, because there's no guarantees.
Right.
Check.
Garbage. Right.
Fidget.
It's better to plan for what is most likely and be able to overcome that, and like
Fidget. Cut.
I'm trying to find the word that I'm trying to use is
Well, if I get much better or if I get cured, then there's nothing to plan for or worry about. It's just a good thing that happens. But I don't need to like prepare for that in any ways. Cut. But I feel like if this is something that's going to continue for the rest of my life, that requires a lot more thought. Fidget. So I should probably work through that a lot more, because that's the one that's actually going to cause, a problem to think about and solve. Fidget, where if I get better, then I just get better and cut. Like fidget, yeah, that's great. I could just, I don't know, fidget, find a job or something. Bricks.
are you looking for work?
Look, not currently, just because stuff hasn't worked out and I'm not sure where to go.
Okay.
Jeez, like, there's not a lot of jobs that I can do or would be suited for me. Frigid, like, you know, sometimes I'll think, oh, like, I couldn't, most people my age, I feel like they're waitresses or something, and I couldn't, like, actually physically carry anything around with me, so that puts out any sort of manual labor. And then if I'm in customer services, which frigid, I'd actually think I'd be really good at, but not everybody might understand. And then there's also the fact that I don't just have Tourette's, I have fibromyalgia, which would put me completely out of work for fidget 1 to 2 weeks at any time, like really frequently. So I just miss a bunch of work anyways, bricks. But I am trying to work with a vocal coach to make some music. Hopefully that'll be on my channel at some point. I know people keep bugging me about that. Bricks, I just don't have stuff right now, unfortunately, bricks, but it's coming along. So hopefully I can make stuff in music, because my tics actually stop when I sing. But so yeah, hopefully I could do that. Bricks. Other than that, I'm just trying to focus on like taking care of myself and YouTubing.
Yeah.
I don't know. A frigid traditional job isn't really on my radar so much right now, just because it doesn't seem like fidget
Practical.
a very good idea. Yeah, fidget, it doesn't seem practical.
Yeah, I agree. Like with, especially like I have all the a lot of pluses. I have my ticket tax. It's a lot, like it's unpredictable. You never know when it's gonna happen. So you, if you
Yeah,
employ a job, it would have to be a very understanding one, or from home.
yeah. And I think it's harder when you do have unpredictable symptoms, because 1 minute you could be working and doing a ton of stuff just fine, and like the next you're just completely out. Frigid, especially with my fibromyalgia. Like if I have a fibro flare, frigid, I'm like almost bedridden. So any type of work, like anything at all, it's just not on the table. Frigid. So for that to happen at random points, like throughout the year, the month, or whatever, and just like never knowing when I'm gonna be able to work, frigid. That's like,
Yeah.
that's Leanne, just not fidget. I wouldn't expect an employer to, I guess, put up with that, if that's the right way to phrase it.
Know what you mean?
Canada. But I try to do other useful stuff. Fidget.
Do you feel like that what you felt maybe years ago about your future is kind of like a morning state now, where you wished you had been able to do, like I was dreaming of foster home,
bricks.
all kinds of things like that I wanted
Yeah.
to do, but it's not really practical with my tick attacks that I never know what's going to happen. I have kids around, blah blah. So is there like
Frigid.
a fuck, like compared to when you were a kid
Cut.
and now, a period of kind of mourning of what you wanted to
Cut.
do, you feel like might not be able to happen, and maybe
Yeah.
make
Yeah,
instead of?
sometimes. Frigid. Again, I try not to focus on it too much because that's just gonna like make me depressed. Frigid.
Yeah.
But there is stuff, like, I don't know, since elementary school or middle school even, I've always been interested in, like, psychology.
Nope.
Frigid, or I always, like, wanted to be into, like, something like neuroscience or whatnot. I'm, like, very interested in the brain and people. Um, Frigid, but those, types of careers, I would have to be able to do school in the first place. Frigid, which has not worked out very well. So yeah, there is stuff that I think Frigid, I'm not doing that I've always wished that I could do at this point. Frigid. But then I do try to look at the bright side. Frigid, not so much that it's like unrealistic, but I have been getting more into like entertainment stuff, like being on YouTube and Frigid trying to make music. Um, or Frigid, look, I want to get more into disability advocacy and stuff. And those are all still things that I'm very passionate about, that I still can do and I still can help people. Bricks. I don't know if I can make money off of it, but um, I can still live a good life and do what I love. But yeah, there's a bit, like, I'm not going to lie, there's a bit of sadness about, like, all the career options that I could have had if Fidget things had worked out in a different way, or I wish I could have completed high school. I took the Fidget California high school proficiency test, but that's not exactly because I didn't get accommodations throughout most of my high school, because they didn't know that anything was well, everybody knew that something was wrong, it's just nobody did anything about it. So, stuff like that where I'm like, I wish things could have worked out differently and I could have
So
done
the
what I
things didn't
wanted.
really work out as planned, but it still ends up being like living a dream, just
Yeah.
like an original dream. So it's still a dream that's coming.
Frigid. Yeah. I mean, well, I guess because I'm a Christian, so I do believe that, like, God sort of has a plan, like he's already worked this stuff out. So even though it's like not what I thought of Frigid my life would be before, I'm still I'm not on some sort of like wrong, totally out there path, Fidget, I can still do stuff. There's still, there's still meaning to my life, just that doesn't hinge on me being able to work or being able to do a certain thing. Fidget, I don't know if that makes sense. But,
Meaning, there's always meaning, and I
well,
think
yeah,
that,
Fidget.
like, even though we're not where we would have wanted to be, we're where we are now, and where we are now takes us to where we're gonna be, which is
Yeah.
really. So it's just kind of a step at,
Yeah.
like, it's all just a
Fidget.
process of.
I
There's
always say
always
that I
reason.
wouldn't change um, what I've been through before, because it's given me so much like more wisdom and experience now. For just like, even though it sucked, I am sort of grateful for it anyway. Well, maybe not grateful, but it's made me like who I am, so I wouldn't change
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
Bricks.
I've said that before too.
Yeah.
I think that I, like, not thankful that it happened, but thankful for what it brought me, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Fidget.
Brings a different perspective.
Frigid. Okay. I actually think I have to go.
Okay.
But this has been lovely talking to you. And again, for those of you guys watching, you should totally go check out our channel. Go check out part 1 if you've been a rebel and watched this out of order. But yeah. So Fidget, I guess that's all we've got for you today. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see, I guess, both of our faces. Jeez.
Thumbs up.
And
Gotta be.
Frigid, no thumbs down, only thumbs up, guys. Frigid, cut. I bet just because we said that, someone's gonna be like, I'm just gonna thumbs it down anyways. Just to,
Maybe it'll happen. You never know.
yeah, just to be a rebel. But yeah, frigid cut. I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, frigid.